Welcome to the Office on Violence Against Women, or OVW, pre-application information session. This pre-recorded session is intended for prospective applicants to the fiscal year 2025 grants to prevent and respond to domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, and sex trafficking against children and youth program, Notice of Funding Opportunity, which we now refer to as a NOFO. We are grateful that you are taking the time away from your important work to learn more about this year's funding announcement. Whether you are a first-time or experienced applicant, we recognize that reading the NOFO and preparing an application can be a daunting and uncertain process. With that in mind, we have three general goals for this presentation. The first is to help you gain a good understanding of the Children and Youth Program, including essential information such as the award length and amount, the three purpose areas, and the eligibility and required partnerships. The second is to clarify important aspects of the application process, such as what goes into your application and how it will be reviewed. Finally, we hope to provide some helpful guidance along the way and point to useful resources that you can use when crafting your application. We can't cover everything in the funding announcement. It's very important to closely read the FY 2025 Children and Youth NOFO and to consult the OVW Application Companion Guide, which is referenced throughout the NOFO. Carefully reading and following the requirements in the NOFO will help you to write a complete and competitive application. As you follow this session, we recommend that you have the NOFO open on your computer or print it out so that you can make notes as needed. We will refer to the information and page numbers in the NOFO throughout the presentation. In the description for this webinar, you will find links to important resources, like the Application Companion Guide. One last note before getting into the content. It likely comes as no surprise that a federal funding announcement comes with its fair share of acronyms. So that all of us become familiar with these, here is a list of a few acronyms that we will use in this presentation. You might find it helpful to screenshot these acronyms or jot them down. Here is a little bit of background information about the CY program, which you can read about on the OVW webpage for this program. The CY program is the only OVW discretionary grant program focused on serving the 0 to 24 age group. It supports comprehensive, community-based efforts to develop or expand prevention, intervention, treatment, and response strategies to address the needs of children and youth impacted by domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, and sex trafficking, also known as the Violence Against Women Act, or VAWA, crimes. Projects funded by the CY program can serve children and youth within the age range of 0 to 24, as well as their non-offending caretaker. One side note and clarification before we discuss the CY NOFO. This Children and Youth NOFO is one of two funding opportunities issued by our program. The other is called Engaging Men, which focuses on engaging men and youth as allies in the prevention of violence against women and girls. The information in this session focuses only on the Children and Youth funding opportunity. Unlike in previous years, you may apply to both of these funding opportunities and receive an award or subaward from both. I'll aim to respond to each of these 5 questions, starting with what do children and youth projects do, which covers the requirements that your proposed project must meet. First things first, CY projects are for 36 months. We expect that the upcoming award period will begin on October 1, 2025, lasting through September 2028. Projects can receive up to $500,000 total for this 36-month grant period, not per year. When applying, you should propose a project that lasts the full 36 months, and you should request the full $500,000. There is no benefit to proposing a project for less time or less money. Your project activities should cover this full 36-month period, and your budget should account for the full $500,000. It is possible that a successful applicant receives an award that is for fewer than 36 months and or less than $500,000, but please request this maximum time and exact amount. This year, OVW estimates that we will make up to 19 CY awards, amounting to around $9,500,000 total. For more information, please read page 4 in the NOFO. The CY project that you propose must address one, and only one, of the 3 CY purpose areas. We refer to these simply as Purpose Area 1, Purpose Area 2, and Purpose Area 3. Determining the purpose area that you will propose to address is an important early decision as you develop your application. Selecting one CY purpose area is required. To write a competitive application, you must clearly indicate the one purpose area you will address and show throughout your application how you will do so. Purpose Area 1 is providing services and training to address children exposed to the VAWA crimes. This purpose area focuses on children between the ages of 0 and 10. Purpose Area 2 is creating safer communities for youth, prevention, intervention, treatment, and response services for youth impacted by the VAWA crimes. This purpose area focuses on youth between the ages of 11 and 24. And Purpose Area 3 is providing school-based services, prevention, intervention, and response to the VAWA crimes. This purpose area focuses on middle school and high school students. Just a note on the age range. Each purpose area includes a range of ages for the children and youth who can be served by a project addressing that purpose area. However, you do not need to serve the entire age range for the purpose area that you select. Rather, we encourage you to focus on a specific age group within the listed range. In your application, you should tailor your proposed activities to that age group and clearly demonstrate that your staff and project partners have the proper education, experience, and skill set to serve those ages. For all 3 purpose areas, there are program requirements that you have to address. These are detailed in the NOFO on pages 12 to 14. These are very important. We encourage you to read these closely as you develop your application. Your application should clearly demonstrate how your project activities will address all of these program requirements. For all 3 of the purpose areas, your activities must provide all of the following: victim services, prevention education or programming, and training for allied professionals in your community. For instance, a project addressing Purpose Area 3 cannot only provide school-based prevention and education to high school students. It must also provide training to other professionals and provide victim services. While your proposed project must meet these requirements, this does not mean that you cannot add activities to your project that go beyond the required activities for your chosen purpose area. In fact, applicants should feel free to add activities in addition to the program requirements, so long as they are allowable within the scope of this program and do not undermine victim safety. Whichever purpose area you propose to address, we believe that meaningful community partnerships are essential to effectively implementing a CY project. As you develop your application, it's essential to determine how you will meet the partnership requirement for your purpose area. The next few slides provide an overview of the required partnerships that all applicants must include in their application. For an application to be successful, it is very important not only that you meet the partnership requirement for your chosen purpose area, you must also demonstrate throughout your application, in your project activities, your memorandum of understanding, and your budget, that you and your partner will meaningfully collaborate to implement your project. Each purpose area, 1, 2, and 3, has 2 required partners that must be included in the project. I'll go into more detail in a moment about the specific partnership requirement for each purpose area. For your chosen purpose area, please understand that you and your project partner or partners are limited to fulfilling only one of these two required partnership roles. In practice, this means that your application must have one organization that fulfills one of these required roles and another organization that fulfills the other. Please refer to pages 8 through 9 in the Notice of Funding Opportunity for the full details. Applications that do not include the required partnerships will be removed from the review process. Let's start with the required partnership for Purpose Area 1, which focuses on children ages 0 to 10. An application addressing Purpose Area 1 must include the following partners: a victim service provider with a demonstrated primary purpose of providing direct victim services for children who are victims of and/or exposed to the VAWA crimes, or a demonstrated primary purpose of serving adult victims of VAWA crimes, but also a designated program that provides direct victim services to children who are victims of and/or exposed to the aforementioned crimes. In addition to the victim service provider, the other partner must be either a school serving this age range or a community-based organization with a demonstrated expertise in developing or providing specialized programming or services to children. As with the other purpose areas, all partners need to be located in the place where the proposed project will be implemented. An application addressing Purpose Area 2 must include a victim service provider and a community-based organization. The definitions for the two required partners are the same as Purpose Area 1, except the word children is now replaced with youth to reflect the higher age group of the purpose area. For the CY program, youth includes people between the ages of 11 and 24. The two required partners are the victim service provider, which must have a demonstrated primary purpose of providing direct victim services for youth who are victims of and/or exposed to the VAWA crimes, or a demonstrated primary purpose of providing adult victims of VAWA crimes, but also a designated program that provides direct victim services to youth who are victims of and/or exposed to the aforementioned crimes. In addition to the victim service provider, the community-based organization must have a demonstrated expertise in developing or providing specialized programming or services to youth. I'll repeat the point that all partners need to be local, located in the place where the proposed project is implemented. The partnership requirement for Purpose Area 3 is a bit different. An application addressing Purpose Area 3 must include a victim service provider and a school or school district serving middle and/or high school students. Unlike in previous years, schools and school districts are now eligible lead applicants for CY grants. As with all the other purpose areas, all partners need to be local and located in the place where the proposed project is being implemented. In addition to satisfying the required partnerships for your chosen purpose area, the CY program requires applicants to create or expand a coordinated community response, or CCR. Your CCR should include other community entities that will work with the project lead to successfully implement the project. We've included a few examples of possible CCR members on the slide. The required partnerships are part of the CCR, but the CCR is a broader set of relationships with entities in the community that will enable the project lead to implement more lasting impact and change. While your project partners must be included in your MOU, your CCR participants do not need to be included in your MOU. For more information on the CCR, please check page 12 in the NOFO as well as page 20. Each of the CCR members should contribute the specific skills and knowledge necessary to support the successful development and implementation of your proposed project. Please note that before implementing the project, Every CY grant must complete a planning phase in the first few months of the award period. The purpose of the planning phase is to ensure that each grant recipient and its partners have the time and resources to prepare to successfully implement the project. This lasts approximately 3 to 6 months, but it can be shorter or longer based on your needs and goals. OVW will release $50,000 from the grantee's full award that can be used to cover expenses during the planning phase. To help you navigate and get the most from the planning phase, your OVW grant manager and the children and youth team will meet with you and your project partners to provide additional guidance. You can read about the planning phase on page 12 of the NOFO. Now that we've surveyed what CY projects can do, let's turn to the eligibility requirements and important due dates that you should keep in mind. Only eligible applicants should apply, and ineligible applicants will not be considered for funding. You can find this list of entities that are eligible and ineligible to apply for a CY grant on pages 6 to 7 of the NOFO. Eligible applicants are limited to the following: units of local government or an agency of a unit of local government, Indian tribal governments, tribal organizations, tribal nonprofit organizations, schools and school districts, but not institutions of higher education, victim service providers, nonprofit, non-governmental entities, and faith-based organizations. Please note the entities that are not eligible applicants. Foreign entities and institutions of higher education, regardless of whether they are nonprofit, non-governmental, or government entities, are not eligible applicants. Also ineligible are recent grant recipients from fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024, whose grants will continue beyond this current fiscal year. For eligible applicants, there are two general categories of applicants: new and continuation. Both new and continuation applications are equally welcome to apply. It's important to know which you are when applying. New applications are those who have never received funding under the Children and Youth Program, or who are previous grant recipients whose funding under the Children and Youth Program expired on or before July 2nd, 2024, a full year before the 2025 application is due. Continuation applications are those who currently have a CY grant or whose grant closed after July 2nd, 2024. Both new and continuation applicants go through the same scoring process, which I'll describe later. So there is no special consideration given to either new or to continuation applicants. One quick note: if your organization is currently a grant recipient or a subrecipient of a Children and Youth Grant from FY 2023 or FY 2024, you are not eligible to apply as the lead applicant or as a project partner in FY 2025. One additional note for continuation applicants: current grantees that have a substantial amount of unobligated funds remaining as of March 31st, 2025, may not be considered for funding or may receive a reduced award amount if selected for funding in fiscal year 2025. That is, if at the end of March you have 50% or more of your current award and without adequate justification, you may not be considered for funding. Or if you are selected for funding, you may receive less than the full $500,000. As mentioned when discussing the partnership requirements for each purpose area, the applicant and its project partner or partners must be based in the project's service area. The CY program only supports projects that are local and specific to that community. Grant funds may not be used to conduct or support regional or statewide activities or projects. For instance, a project serving 3 schools in several nearby counties would be considered local, but a project that aims to support schools across an entire state would not. In developing your application, you should make it clear that your partnerships and coordinated community response, your project objectives, and your activities are all designed to implement a local project. To ensure that you're able to submit your full application for review, we'd like to clarify 3 important dates and actions. You'll need to complete these to successfully submit your application. We recognize that this can be a lot to learn and remember, whether you're a first-time or an experienced applicant. So please don't hesitate to reach out to the support resources for help along the way. First of all, you can find this funding opportunity on grants.gov by using the assistance listing number 16.888, the grants.gov funding opportunity number, which is OVW 2025 172291, or the title of the NOFO. In the funding announcement, you will find directions for applying on pages 29 to 31. Please note the different due dates and different systems used during this process. First, you must register with sam.gov or ensure that your sam.gov account is up to date. We recommend doing this by June 12th, as registration can take several weeks. Then you will register in grants.gov and begin your application. This registration process takes 1 week on average, so please also begin this as soon as possible. This is where you will upload the filled out SF424 and SFLLL documents. The due date to do so is June 30th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, approximately 3 days before your full application is due in Just Grants. Next, the final step of the application process is in Just Grants, where you will submit your full application and all required attachments. We also recommend that you ensure you are registered and your account is active in Just Grants as soon as possible. The due date to submit the full application in Just Grants is 8:59 p.m. Eastern Time on July 2nd, 2025, not 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. We know it can be challenging to navigate these new systems. We truly hope that you can submit your complete application smoothly and on time. Please note that each of these systems has its own dedicated support, which we encourage you to contact as soon as any questions arise. Now that we've discussed the program requirements, eligibility, and application process, let's transition to the actual content of your grant application. We'd like to focus on the key aspects of your application that will be scored: your proposal narrative, your budget worksheet and narrative, and your Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. These components make up the core of your application and are the only materials that your peer reviewers will score. For each of these application components, you will receive a separate score during peer review. Together, the points add up to a maximum of 100. Whether your project is funded or not depends largely on this score. Please refer to the NOFO pages 19 to 26 for the specific information about the proposal narrative, the budget, and the MOU. Please also note that there are other application components that you will need to submit, but which are unscored. You can find these other elements listed in a checklist on pages 30 to 31 in the NOFO. Let's focus first on the application component that is worth the most, your proposal narrative. The proposal narrative is worth a total of 70 points and includes 3 sections: the purpose of the proposal section, worth 10 points, the what will be done section, worth 40 points, and the who will implement section, worth 20 points. In the NOFO, you'll find that for each of these 3 sections, there are numbered items that you must respond to in your proposal narrative. There are 5 items for the purpose of the proposal, 8 for what will be done, and another 4 for who will implement. This is probably the most important guidance we can offer for the proposal narrative. Your proposal narrative should clearly and directly answer each of these items in the exact order that the items are listed. During peer review, your proposal narrative will be scored based on your specific responses to each of these items in this order. Providing your responses in a different order can lose you points, as can providing additional information that has not been requested in response to these items. While developing your responses, it's also important to keep in mind the relative value of each section. For instance, The purpose of the proposal is only worth 10 points out of 70 total for the proposal narrative. So you probably would not want to commit a large portion of your narrative to this one section. You can review the full list of proposal narrative requirements on pages 19 to 21 in the NOFO. Beginning this year, you have two options for submitting your proposal narrative. Both options will go through the same peer review process and be scored according to the same criteria. You have the option to decide which you prefer to use. The first option is the same as in previous years. You must write your proposal narrative in a document. You must follow these formatting and technical requirements, which are detailed in the NOFO on page 18. If you take this option, please note that you should have clear subheadings for each numbered item in each of the three sections of the proposal narrative. Your subheadings can be either a number, a shorthand for that item, or the full text for that item. The second option is to fill out a CY narrative template, which you can find in Appendix C of the NOFO on page 44 and on the OVW website on our Open NOFO page, where you can download it. If you take this option, you will submit the completed narrative template. This template has an instruction page and then tables for each of the proposal narrative sections. Purpose of the proposal, what will be done, and who will implement. In each of those tables, you will find each numbered item for that section and a text box where you can record your answer to each item. Some applicants might find this a more convenient way to complete the proposal narrative. Whichever option you choose, please follow the formatting requirements. Your narrative may not exceed 20 pages, double-spaced, and should be no smaller than 11-point Arial font with 1-inch margins. Reviewers will not read beyond this page limit or read any supplemental documents that you submit. You do not want to lose valuable points by going over the page limit or not following the formatting requirements. Each year, excellent applications fall below the funding cutoff score for not adhering to the formatting requirements. Turning now to the second of the scored application components, the budget worksheet and narrative. In addition to meeting the requirements described in the NOFO, the budget should clearly reflect the project that you describe in the proposal narrative. Discrepancies between, for instance, personnel described in the Who Will Implement section and the personnel and subaward categories in the budget can lead to a point deduction. The requirements and guidance for completing your budget are described on pages 20 to 25 in the NOFO. I'd like to emphasize a few key items. All budgets should include the required OVW training and technical assistance set aside, which supports travel and attendance at required training events hosted by OVW. Projects located in the contiguous US must allocate $15,000, and projects located in the US territories, Hawaii, or Alaska must allocate $20,000. In your budget, this set-aside can be distributed between personnel at the lead organization and the subawardee for your partner organization or organizations. All budgets must include adequate funds to meet accessibility needs for people with disabilities or who are deaf or hard of hearing, as well as to meet language access needs for people with limited English proficiency. If you have other resources to cover the cost of these services, please clearly note that in your budget. Ensuring meaningful access is very important for all OVW programs, and not ensuring this for your proposed project will lose you points during peer review. Moving on now to the final of the three components that will be scored during peer review, the Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. This is a document containing the terms of the partnership and the roles and responsibilities between two or more parties, and it must be included as an attachment to the application in JustGrants. As with the budget, the MOU should reflect the project that you describe in your project narrative. We also strongly encourage you to refer to the sample MOU on the OVW website, which shows the elements that go into an effective MOU. Unlike the project narrative, there is no page limit for the MOU. You have as much space as you need to provide the information requested, even if you have addressed it elsewhere in your application. The NOFO lists the requirements for the MOU. we urge you to closely read these requirements and ensure that the MOU meets each and every one. Missing small requirements will likely lose you points during peer review, which can make the difference between being funded and not funded. For instance, the MOU must state that each project partner has reviewed the budget, is aware of the total amount being requested, and is being equitably compensated for their work under the grant, or is agreeing to be partially compensated or receive no compensation from the grant. Please do not omit requirements like this in your MOU. You can please see pages 25 to 26 of the NOFO for all MOU requirements. If you propose to provide legal assistance as part of your grant activities, please take note of this additional requirement. Any grant recipient or subrecipient providing legal assistance with grant funds must submit a delivery of legal assistance certification. A sample delivery of legal assistance certification letter can be found on the OVW website, and you can read more on page 27 in the NOFO. You can submit this with your application. If you do not, you may submit this certification after receipt of the award during your planning phase, if you are funded. Please note that there are two priorities described in the CY NOFO, which you can read about on pages 11 and 12. If your proposed project substantively addresses one or both of these priorities, it may receive priority consideration for funding. Please also note that certain activities are considered beyond the scope of what the program can fund, and that there are other costs that grant recipients may not use grant funds to cover. When designing your project activities and budget, please do not include such costs. The out-of-scope activities are described on pages 15 to 16 in the NOFO, and the unallowable costs include the following: lobbying, fundraising, the purchase of real property, physical modifications to buildings, including minor renovations such as painting or carpeting, and construction. I'd like to turn now to other application components. In the next couple of slides, we're going to focus on aspects of your application that relate to the documents that our financial team, the Grants Financial Management Division, or GFMD, reviews. More specifically, we'll discuss some items that GFMD has identified from prior year's applications that could help with expediting our review process. I'll highlight certain aspects of the pre-award risk assessment and provide a link to a detailed webinar on how to develop the budget that will be included in your application. I'll note two items identified in the summary data sheet, which is completed by all applicants, specifically the single audit response and the IRS three-step safe harbor procedure. First, OVW requests that all applicants provide a statement as to whether they have expended $750,000 or more in federal funds during their last fiscal year. If yes, then please indicate that and also specify the end date of your last fiscal year. OVW's Grants Financial Management Division has found that applicants do not always include all of this information. Please ensure that this question is answered in its entirety on the summary data sheet. The second item is specifically for nonprofit organizations. If you use the IRS three-step safe harbor procedure to determine your executive's compensation, you are required to provide a disclosure letter. Please refer to the NOFO for further details and a link to a sample letter. Note that there are 4 required parts of this disclosure letter. The sample letter provided outlines all 4 parts of the disclosure, so please be sure to follow the sample and provide a response to each of the 4 pieces. The next topic we'd like to address is the pre-award risk assessment questions, which assist GFMD during their pre-award risk assessment review for all applications. Each applicant must prepare a response to all 11 questions, and each question has multiple parts. We've noticed from prior years that applicants do not always fully answer all parts of the question, which in turn requires GFMD to reach out to the applicant. This can delay funding decisions. Some common issues that GFMD has encountered include question 2, where the applicant must indicate that they do indeed have internal policies, as well as provide a brief list of topics covered in the policies and procedures. Another is question number 3, where some applicants fail to provide a brief summary of the organization's process for tracking expenditures, and more specifically, whether or not it tracks budgeted items versus actual expenditures. These are just a few examples, but in general, please make sure that you read each piece of each question and provide a full and comprehensive response. This slide highlights some resources that are available as you're creating the budget to be submitted with your application. Over the last couple of years, GFMD has developed a detailed webinar presentation on how to develop a budget to be submitted with your OVW application. This presentation addresses some of the challenges that you may face with your budget and provides some insight on OVW's budget review process. This webinar can be found at the link on this slide. Next up is the uniform guidance, which can be found at 2 CFR 200. Just use your favorite search engine for this one. Other resources include the DOJ Financial Guide and the NOFO itself. We know this can be a lot of information to process, so if you have any questions about the GFMD information discussed, please feel free to contact the GFMD Help Desk at 888-514-8556 or by email at ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov. We'd like to turn now to 2 final topics: how your application will be reviewed and how you can write a competitive application. This slide shows a broad timeline of what will happen after you submit your application. Before an application is read and scored by your peer reviewers, it goes through basic minimum review at OVW. We ensure that all the major application components have been submitted and that the application is complete. If an application is incomplete, it is removed at this time, which is not very common. All complete applications are sent to peer review. As you develop your application, it can be helpful to keep in mind the peer review process, as peer reviewers are an important audience for your application. Peer reviewers are people with experience in the field and expertise relevant to the CY program. Many of them have received OVW grants in the past, including from the CY program. So they understand both the field and the CY program, but they are not experts about your community, your organization, or the project that you want to implement. This is why it is so important to respond as directly and as clearly as possible to the requested items in the proposal narrative, budget, and MOU. Whatever the outcome of your application, you are entitled to request the consensus comments that peer reviewers create when reviewing your application. These are detailed comments that can help you understand how your application could be improved if you apply to OVW programs in the future. We've provided some guidance here and there throughout the presentation. In closing, we'd like to emphasize a few tips for what you should do and not do to write a competitive application. There is a short list of a few do's and don'ts as you develop your application. In the do column, make good use of the OVW resources for applicants, including the sample budget and model MOU. These models can help you ensure that you are communicating all of the information requested by the NOFO. Register as early as possible for the different systems you need to use to submit your application. You could even do this today or tomorrow. This could save you the stress of waiting for your registrations to go through as we approach the July 2nd due date. Collaborate with your project partners on your application as soon as possible, especially when crafting and signing the MOU. Make sure that all of your scored application components work together to communicate your proposed project. They should align with each other. And consider reapplying if your application is not successful this year. Your experience and feedback from the consensus comments can help you be more competitive on a future application. Our program has certainly funded returning applicants who weren't successful the first or second time around. In the don't column, please avoid unfamiliar acronyms, unnecessary jargon, generalizations, and overly complicated writing. All of this can make it difficult for your peer reviewers to understand the important information about your project. In your project narrative, don't ignore the formatting and technical requirements. Even losing a point here or there can make the difference between receiving and not receiving funding. As mentioned a few times already, please ensure that you respond to all of the criteria listed in the NOFO for the project narrative, budget, and MOU. Don't omit anything, such as not including all the MOU partners have read the budget, which can cost you points and lead to a decision not to fund your project. And lastly, please do not submit additional application materials. Only submit the requested application materials. We will not consider separate documents such as project timelines. All of the information about your proposed project should be in the project narrative, budget, and the MOU. As mentioned previously, there are several helpful resources available to you on our website. You will find the application companion guide, a sample budget and sample MOU, tips and examples, and other helpful resources. Please make use of these resources. And if you have additional questions about the CY program, you can reach out to the OVW CY program team at the following email address: ovw.childrenyouth@usdoj.gov. For financial questions, you can contact GFMD at ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov or call them at 1-888-514-8556. If you have technical questions related to grants.gov, contact grants.gov at support@grants.gov or call them at 1-800-518-4726. And lastly, if you have technical questions related to Just Grants, contact Just Grants support at ovw.justgrantsupport@usdoj.gov or give them a call at 1-866-655-4482. Thank you above all for your interest in the fiscal year 2025 Notice of Funding opportunity for our Children and Youth program. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us via the CY inbox with any additional questions. Thank you and have a nice day.